Welcome to episode 25 of the LAN Partners Podcast. I'm your host, Connor, and I got Matt with me.
Hello.
And, of course, Dave.
Hey, yo.
Hello. So this week we got our Madden update, the final Madden update. And since we're doing this whole Halloween month, I'm going to be talking about BioShock 1 from the BioShock collection because that is available on PS4 and Xbox One. So we will be talking about BioShock 1. Play a little game, which game came first, where I quiz their knowledge of game release dates. Matt's going to talk to us about Resident Evil 7. Our discussion topic is about this Friday's big gaming day. We got Assassin's Creed coming out, Mario Odyssey, and Wolfenstein 2, all being released on Friday, October the 27th. That's a big day for video games, so we want to talk more about Mario Odyssey and Wolfenstein. None of us are really Assassin's Creed players, so we're not going to do a whole lot of talking about that. And our list for the day is top horror games. Who we are is just we are three gamers who have full-time jobs, families, and other hobbies. Our goal for this podcast is to give suggestions of games for people who don't have a lot of time to game, so that precious hour or two that you have to game isn't wasted on a game you don't even like. We talk about new and old games so you can find the best game that fits your style. Please download the podcast by Apple app, Stitcher, Google Play for you Android users, or go on iTunes and hit subscribe. That way you get our weekly episodes uploaded to you every Thursday. If you have questions, discussion topics, or list ideas, please message us on Facebook, send us an email, thelandpartners@gmail.com, or just leave a comment. Check out our LAN Partner Twitch page if you want to get our gameplay videos of all these fun games that we talk about. Let's go ahead and jump into the Madden updates. So this is our last Madden update. As of last week, Dave was eliminated by the Chiefs, and I played the Texans before we recorded the podcast, so we already talked about how I beat the Texans. So my game was against the Chiefs. Felt kind of good going into it. You know, AI can be a tough opponent, but they killed me. 21-7 was the final. Ooh. I could not do anything against them. They knocked out two human players in the playoffs. And then Dave, so wow. Who went on to win it, Dave?
The Chiefs, before we get on to the winner, the Chiefs and the Seahawks, I absolutely have not been able to beat either of those computer-controlled teams since, like, Madden 17. So I did not feel good going into my game against the Chiefs, which I told you guys about. And I had even joked about, like, oh, hey, have fun playing the Chiefs next round, Connor. I'm pretty sure I said that to you before we even played that week, and that's what happened. So you felt their wrath as well. So our buddy Mike was the Rams. And he was playing the Panthers, who actually only lost 3 games all season. And I expected that game to be close. Was not a team. I believe he held the Panthers to like 1 score. And then moved on to face the Chiefs, where Mike claimed victory against the AFC champions in convincing form. I watched the game on live stream, and he was dominant. It was an impressive thing to watch.
Well, it's over. We have a champion.
It's over. Congratulations, Mike, even though you only listen once in a while.
So we have a champion, and it's not a LAN partner, which is kind of disappointing. Ooh. I thought for sure it would have been a LAN partner, but that's okay. Maybe next season, which won't be for a while. So we'll probably hold off on playing another season until maybe the spring or something like that. At least for me. I don't know about you guys, but for me, I'm going to wait. So let's go ahead and jump into our reviews for the day. I'll talk about BioShock to start us off. So a little bit about BioShock is I played it twice. I played it when it originally came out in August of 2007 on the Xbox 360. That's when I originally played it. And then I played it again in the BioShock collection, which came out for PS4 and Xbox One. I got it on PS4. This came out in September of 2016. The developers is 2K Boston and 2K Australia. So it's basically a 2K game. Now, BioShock has a special place in gaming history if you've ever played it before. It's not just a normal first-person shooter like a Wolfenstein or something like that. It's got a whole different artistic look to it. Matt, like I know you've played it before.
Yeah.
Do you agree with me that it's a different experience?
Yeah, for sure, and especially with the use of and I'm sure you'll get into the use of all the different powers you get and things like that. So it's not just using guns.
Yeah, and before I get too deep into BioShock, like this game was looked at as a piece of gaming history because of the artistic style of it. And it's won awards for the artistic style and the horror parts of it and all these different things. So let me just tell you about BioShock. It's a first-person shooter. It's got like an RPG element to it where you have like a weapon wheel where you could have a whole lot of different weapons. It's not just most first-person shooters, you have a primary weapon, then you have a secondary weapon. BioShock, you could have a whole wheel of weapons where you have an assault rifle, a handgun, a rocket, all these different things. And then you have all these elemental weapons where you can electrocute people, you could set them on fire, you can shoot bees at people, you can hypnotize them, telekinesis, all this crazy abilities. And I don't know of any first-person shooters that I've ever played that has these kind of features like an RPG first-person shooter. I think that's why it was such a groundbreaking game at the time in 2007 when this game was first released. It was such a new, refreshing experience, and the whole feel of the game was so different. It's set in 1960. The opening cutscene alone is one of the most memorable opening cutscenes that you can remember in a video game. You're the main character named Jack, and you're on a plane, and the plane crashes in the Atlantic Ocean, and you come over the surface, and the water looks great. The water's floating, and you see just a huge light tower, like a light tower in the middle of the ocean, and the plane's on fire, and then you stumble into this light tower, and you go into this world called Rapture, which is a city underneath the water. Yep. And this whole world just unfolds in front of you. The whole world was created by this guy named Andrew Ryan, which is known as one of the greatest villains in video game history. So already, right off the bat, you got one of the greatest villains in Andrew Ryan. You got one of the greatest game settings in Rapture and the whole artistic and the horror part of it. It's just such a unique game. That's mostly what I wanted to talk about with BioShock. And I'll talk about the pros real fast, but I kind of already hit on them. The RPG elements, the artistic angle of it. The story was extremely unique with this city underwater, and you're trying to uncover like what's going on with this Andrew Ryan. And you have this little like guide with you the whole time. I don't remember what the name of that guy was, but he kind of throws you through the whole game, and then there's some twists and turns throughout the whole game. But it's really good. The couple cons for this game is at times it was a little slow because of the horror aspect of it. I mean, it wasn't like a jump scare kind of game coming at you, but like it had a lot of creepy. You're kind of walking around in like a hospital area, and there's blood all over the walls and like syringes and knives and scissors all over the place. So just that whole angle, it was kind of creepy, and the game really flowed very slowly at times like that, where you're really having to look around corners. So for me, I'm not a big horror guy, but I really like this game. So for me, it was a little slow at times. The backtracking got old after a while in some sections of the game. You go one way, then they're like, okay, now you got this item, go back to where you started, and you got to go all the way through, and suddenly all the enemies are back. Stuff like
it's funny
that.
How that happens.
Yeah, stuff like that drives me crazy in any game where you're just backtracking pointlessly. And then the audio journals. And we've talked about audio journals before in Metal Gear Solid 5, how you could pick up those journals and uncover more of the story. Horizon Zero Dawn had the same thing. But for some reason, BioShock's, I could not get into their audio journals. Like, I would collect them and I'd play them. I would not listen, though, for even a second. Like, I would just have it on in the background, and whatever they said, they said. If there was any sort of important story details, I missed it, but I never really felt like I was lost in the story because of those audio journals, so I don't know exactly how much story they were given. It was more of just side characters. They tell you a little story about them. But the audio journals, I wish there was a better way that they could have utilized those a little bit more. So my overall for BioShock, here's the thing with BioShock, though. I played it originally in 2007. I had much higher praises when I played it the first time. When I played it the second time, 10 years later, it ages. A game like that ages. You've seen many games like very similar to it since then. And the style of it ages a little bit. And Dave's even gone back and tried to play it, and he did not enjoy it because, it's a game that doesn't age very well depending on who you are. So I'm going to give it an 8.5 in its current state. It's still a great game. It hasn't aged terribly or anything like that. But it just back in the day when it first came out, this game's probably a 9.5, and some people would even call it a 10. Like, it's just, there's nothing like BioShock, but over time, it kind of wears off a little bit, but it's still an 8.5. It's a really great game. I played BioShock 2 and BioShock Infinite, so I will be talking about those in future podcasts. But BioShock 1, if you're thinking about picking up BioShock Collection and you're on the fence, pick it up. It's a piece of gaming history. You need to play it if you're any sort of fan of unique games, horror genre, first-person shooter. It's a game you must play. So please check it out. All right, let's jump into our game for the day, which is which game came first. So a quick reminder on this game. This is where I will read 2 games, and you guys will tell me which game came first. All right.
I think our record right now is 1-1. I think Matt won last time, and I won the first time. Isn't that what happened?
It's pretty close. I'll have to check back, but I was keeping track. Right. But I think we did.
I know Matt beat me last time. He beat me on it was like Call of Duty or something else.
Yeah, it was Black Ops or Modern Warfare 2 or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll start it off easy, and then we'll work our way a little bit more difficult. Game number 1, Mario Kart 64 or Diddy Kong Racing. So which game came first, Mario Kart 64 or Diddy Kong Racing?
I'm going to go with Kart 64. Ooh.
Dave, wait, what did you say, Dave? Mario Kart 64 or did...
I said Kart 64. He said Diddy Kong.
Kart 64, December 1996. Diddy Kong, November 1997.
Oh, wow. Whole year later.
Yeah.
That's right. All
right, a little bit more difficult. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 or Resident Evil 2?
Ooh, Tony Hawk 1, Resident Evil 2? I'm gonna say Resident Evil.
Okay, Dave.
Oh man. Matt, you said Resident Evil?
Yeah.
You sure did.
I feel like Connor's being tricky on this one. I'm gonna say Resident Evil 2 as well.
You are both correct. Resident Evil 2, January 1998. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1, August 1999.
Wow.
All right. Okay. The big one. Here we go. So what are we at now? Dave's at
1-1.
No, Dave.
No. I believe I have 2.
Oh, no, because Dave got it both.
Yeah. So Dave's Matt, you either tie or lose. Here we go.
Okay. Here we go.
Final Fantasy X or Metal Gear Solid 2.
10 and Metal Gear Solid 2.
This is a hard one.
Oh, that is really tough because I remember playing both those games.
They gotta be like close together, yeah. I think Final Fantasy X came out around like Easter time or something.
It either came out in the spring, the fall, the summer, or the winter.
I think it was during the season somewhere.
I played Metal Gear 2 in summer, and I played Final Fantasy during a school year. I was in high school. Oh my gosh.
I'm gonna just go with my gut. I'm gonna say Final Fantasy.
All right, dude.
I was gonna say Final Fantasy as well because I believe what happened is I played Final Fantasy. No, hold on, wait. Matt might get a chance to tie because I think I played Metal Gear 2.
We have a late development here.
No, I'm gonna go with my original because Final Fantasy X I talked about with my buddy Jerry, and I believe.
Come on.
It's got to be Final Fantasy X. I'm going 10. I'm going FF10.
All right. Released July on your birthday, Matt, in 2001. Final Fantasy X.
Uh-oh.
And then released later in the year, Metal Gear Solid 2, November 2001. So Final Fantasy X, Dave gets the clean sweep.
Okay.
3 in a row.
I got 2 out of 3.
You didn't get 3 though. So
I didn't get 3 though. No. Dave's like on a Saturday.
I was talking to Jerry.
So that's what it was. If I never,
McDonald's.
Well, because it's true. Like we used to sit down at the lunch table at lunchtime at at my high school, and we would talk about these games. And that was, we actually played that game, like around the same time we played. What was the other one we were talking about a ton? Why can't I remember? I will come back to it.
I just remember Final Fantasy X when it came out. I remember just blowing my mind with the graphics. I remember seeing that game and just being like, "Oh my god!" Like,
it was something.
Exploding the graphics
those
on that.
cutscenes, man.
I know. All right, so Dave is the victor today. Good job, Dave. Let's go ahead and jump into Resident Evil 7. Matt, tell us all about this
All right.
Resident Evil game.
Resident Evil 7, keeping in line with our spooky reviews here. So Resident Evil 7, no guessing here. Survival horror game came out January 24th, 2017, so the beginning of this year. Developed and published by Capcom. No surprise there either. Basically, Resident Evil 7, your character that you play as has lost his wife, and he thought, his name is Ethan, he thought that she had been kidnapped or gotten lost somewhere, and he's trying to search for her, and he mysteriously gets like a tip that she's from her that says that she's in this kind of remote, shanty town off in this like forest area, never looks good. And so he sets out on his own, of course, without any help, by himself, to go find his wife. And it lands you on this property, a house, and that's when you run into the scary inhabitants of the house. It's got a very kind of Texas Chainsaw vibe to it, with the family of the house, the other characters in the game that are scary. The game is a lot. This was a different spike for the Resident Evil series, because what happened was Resident Evil 5. So they had Resident Evil 4, which I talked about last episode. That sparked the Resident Evil series again, because it was back to kind of its survival horror roots. Resident Evil 5 kind of went to a more action adventure type game, where it was more, using assault rifles and grenades and, having more firepower, and it was a more fast-paced type game. Still got good reviews though. Resident Evil 6, they took it on a weird thing where they had you on separate storylines with different characters, and that was not received very well. So people kind of thought Resident Evil was headed in a bad way. And then Resident Evil 7 came out, going back to the survival horror roots, but also with the huge change of making this one a first person. So all the Resident Evils in the past were all third person games, and this one was in first person. And I think it was, I don't know if it was just because they wanted to be first person, but also in conjunction with a lot of the VR coming out. So like Sony supported the VR mode on Resident Evil, and that was something that a lot of people were looking forward to, because the game still looked amazing in VR. And I never played it, but I heard it was extremely scary, because now you're feeling even more immersed in the game. But yeah, that's the biggest addition to this one, is that it's in first person. My pros is that the game is very scary. It brings back to those old Resident Evil games where you're kind of just in one house pretty much the entire game. There are some different locations. I'm not going to spoil anything, but you're pretty much starting off in this house, and for the majority of the game, you're in this house, creaky floors, random noises, and, you're walking around hallways, and you're opening doors, and you don't know what's behind them, that kind of thing. They brought back the saving at the typewriter, but you are able to save unlimited. You don't have to get the ink like you have to in the old games, which was super frustrating. The visuals, the game looks amazing. Game looks very good, which I think I've talked about this before too. Adds to the immersion, adds to the fear of it, because it seems so real. And then just the design of the house. So Resident Evil's always been great for puzzles and finding items to open doors, and going around different ways to find things, solving little clues and riddles. So kind of rewarding you for being smart and figuring out how to get through these secret passageways and things like that. Some of my cons is the game. Having said that, the game is much simpler than older games. So in older Resident Evil games, it's usually where you don't really know where you're going a lot of times, and this game does a really good job of kind of pointing you in the right direction. I didn't find myself getting lost very much at all in this game, which kind of takes away from the game too, though, I think, because before it was scary because you had to keep searching around the house, and you're like, man, I wish I could just find this thing. I need to get out of this room or whatever. I'm scared. But in this game, you didn't have that as much because you kind of knew where you were going all the time. The game's pretty predictable. There's nothing special about the story. You kind of know what's going to happen. So that wasn't a big factor. Overall, though, I gave the game an 8 out of 10. I thought it was a great game. I hope that they continue in this sort of direction with the Resident Evil series. And I think if they can even build upon what they did with this game, then they're heading in the right direction. Then I got right now at Best Buy, you can find the game for $30. And then at GameStop, for some reason, it's a little higher. It's at $38. I'm not sure why that is, but that's Resident Evil 7.
Since you could play the VR version of Resident Evil
Yeah.
7, I talked to my brother about that once because he has VR. And I'm like, did you play? Because they had a demo for Resident Evil when it first came out, like when VR was first launching, they had the Resident Evil demo with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember asking him, I'm like, so how was it? He said he couldn't even play it. He's like, I stopped after like a couple minutes. It was so scary. Like, yeah, I'll never
I can imagine.
try that out. Like, I would never even attempt it. I don't even want to play Resident Evil like with a controller and a TV screen, let alone in VR. Like I'm really there. Like no, thank you.
Yeah.
I got terrified from Until Dawn.
Yeah, I don't think I could handle VR with the Resident Evil.
That'd be too much, man. That'd be way too much. Okay, let's go ahead and jump into our discussion topic. And like I said before, October 27th, this Friday, big day for gaming. And it's more just a big day for Nintendo with Mario Odyssey. I mean, even if this wasn't with Wolfenstein and Assassin's Creed, this still would be a big day, just Mario Odyssey alone. And then you add in Wolfenstein 2, you add in Assassin's Creed. Assassin's Creed is a huge, huge franchise. Like it or not, it's huge. So let's talk about Mario Odyssey, and then we'll talk about Wolfenstein a little bit. But Mario Odyssey is going to be the bulk of what we want to talk about here because two of the three LAN partners are for sure getting Mario Odyssey, and they'll tell us when they're going to get it. But Dave, tell us, what are you excited for about Mario Odyssey?
I'm extremely excited about Mario Odyssey. I've been excited ever since Nintendo released that little picture informational thing that showed that there's like these two branching paths of Mario games since their conception. On one of the paths, you have every Mario game except for 3. And on the path that I'm more interested in, you have Mario 64, which is my favorite Mario game to date. You've got Mario Sunshine, which was another fantastic game. And then the third one, Mario Odyssey. So just to put this into perspective, it's been since 1996 since Mario 64 came out. So I've had the same favorite Mario game since 1996. And I think, I'm not going to guarantee, but I think that Mario Odyssey may just be the Mario game that tops all Mario games, maybe all games. The hat mechanics look really cool. I'm really excited for like an open world hub like Mario 64 and Sunshine. The graphics look beautiful. And I know Matt and I are more graphically inclined than Connor here. And we appreciate the graphics of video games, and that one looks really, really nice. Definitely the nicest looking Mario game. So I don't know, Matt, what are you looking forward to about it?
I think like you said, the open world is really enticing to me. I love you're jumping into different worlds, different environments, kind of different themes. And I saw some really cool ones. And they said they haven't even shown us all of them yet. So that's exciting too, because they've shown a lot. I know there's kind of a level that's in like black and white, and then there's another level that's like, like a desert kind of a thing. It has kind of like a Mexican fiesta type vibe to it. And then of
like
course the
Day of the Dead type thing.
Yeah, something like that. And then of course there's like the new Donk City, which is like the human world, which has kind of brought a lot of controversy to the game because they're like, why aren't these humans freaking out that like Mario's running around them? But yeah, the game looks great. I've seen like the previews, and they're saying he controls just as good as ever. Nintendo's always amazing at making Mario super tight, like the controls, the movement, and the jumps. So I'm sure you'll see a lot of people kind of speed running and taking advantage of that stuff. But yeah, the game looks just a lot of fun. The hat mechanic, like you said too, that I'm sure that's going to open up tons of like secrets and things that you can find.
Yeah. While we're talking about the hat, how about Dave, tell us, what is this hat? Like, what is the abilities? Because here's my thing before you talk about the hat. Watching the footage of Mario Odyssey and, like, seeing him take this hat and do all these crazy things, I'm like, this is a lot of gimmicks going on right now. So, Dave, what is the deal with this hat?
That's actually one of my concerns for the game. I'm excited about the hat mechanics because I do enjoy seeing the things where you like jump off of the hat. Like I saw it act as a like temporary, I guess, platform that Mario can kind of use to get from place to place to bounce off of. That looks really cool. I like that I saw it used as kind of like a boomerang because boomerang Mario was always one of my favorite Marios in Mario 3 when you got the that was kind of cool. And then I was concerned about it because I do remember hearing that it's going to have like quasi multiplayer where the second person can control the hat or something strange that. And I don't know, man. I don't know. Like, I think asymmetrical multiplayer is cool in some ways, but I mean, I don't know. They're going to have to sell me on that one. And also, I don't really want the hat mechanics to overshadow some of like the amazing foundational things from Mario 64, like the different types of jumps and, you know, the backflipping type stuff and the sliding and the, you know, diving and all that kind of stuff that you had to do specifically to get stars in the first, you know, Mario 64. I want all that stuff to stay. I don't want the hat to replace any of that. And then finally, I'm a little concerned about like the Bowser fight at the end because Bowser looks a lot like he reminds me actually a lot of the final boss fight in Mario 3D World. I know, Matt, you guys played that one where you're kind of like chasing after him in a car and stuff. I don't know. I'm just not really I'm not really into that. I would love for Mario Odyssey to go back to Mario 64 final boss Bowser type, you know, like, you know, swinging him around by his tail, chucking him in bombs and stuff like. That's awesome. I kind of want something like that. I want to be doing battle with Bowser hand to hand. I don't want to be chasing after him in various vehicles with different hats.
Matt, do you have any concerns about Mario Odyssey, or is it you're putting a stamp of, you know, this game is going to be good?
Yeah, I don't think as of right now, I don't think I have too many concerns. I'm really excited for the game to see what it has to offer. There hasn't been anything that's really made me worry like that. I know Dave's got a lot more nostalgic for Mario 64 that he's kind of comparing it to, so I can see where he's coming from. I know the hat mechanic also has where you can throw it at different enemies or like people in the game, and you can take control of them with the hat. So that's like the video you've seen where Mario's like riding the T-Rex and stuff like that. So that's another huge mechanic too.
That's what I wanted to talk about with you guys, is that with the hat mechanic of when you could take over an enemy or some sort of item or something, it just seems there's just so many gimmicks to it where for me, I would feel overwhelmed at times not knowing, like if I'm in front of a puzzle, I wouldn't know, do I need to be controlling another enemy or am I just flat out missing this answer to this puzzle right now? Like, where am I supposed to go? And that would just be overwhelming knowing that I can control all of these different items, all of these different people, where I'm like, do I need something right now that I don't have? Am I supposed to be controlling something that's right in front of me? Or is the answer right in front of me? I just don't see it. That would be that's my main concern if I ever were to play Mario Odyssey, is just too many gimmicks for me. It would feel overwhelming unless I see it and it's controlled and you have an understanding of like, okay, this is what I need to do now based on the situation. You know what I mean? I feel like there's just too many avenues to go down from what I've seen in the gameplay footage that they've shown and all those different kind of things.
Yeah, no, I can definitely see that. I think that it being a Nintendo game, Nintendo's focus is always to hit like all audiences, you know, kids and adults. So I think either they'll have something in there to help you or give you a hint, or they'll just make it where it's kind of so noticeable that you'll kind of know what you need to do at that time. That's my guess, but I guess we can wait and see.
Well, kind of piggybacking off of what Matt said, I mean, I wouldn't like your concern to me sounds insane because it's Nintendo and Mario have been about accessibility, like Matt said. They've been about, you know, reaching every single audience member that they possibly can. I do think, however, that you're onto something in terms of like, oh, like what character should I be controlling? What should I do? Mario games have always been absolutely fantastic at giving players what they need to finish the game across the board, whether you're a small child or, you know, a grown adult. But Mario games have also always included like challenge stars or something challenging for gamers that want that extra bit of challenge. And I wouldn't be surprised if there were secret areas and things that you could choose to go into using those different, you know, mechanics that the hat opens up. But I would not be concerned at all about making it through to the credits with ease, because Nintendo just does that.
Because I saw a gameplay footage once of someone took the hat through it at a bullet coming right at them, and then now they're flying the bullet. It's like, if I was in that situation where now I'm flying the bullet, I'd feel like just the next 5 hours I'm going to spend flying around trying to see if there's something that I need to be doing or something extra that I could find. Like, it's just the part of me is just saying, like, okay, now I'm flying a bullet. There has to be a reason I'm flying this bullet. Like, why? Let me find out why I'm flying this bullet now. And I'm flying all over the place. 2 hours go by, still haven't found anything. It's just stuff like that would just feel overwhelming to me. So does anybody know why the Mario Galaxy is not in that line of games that Dave just said?
I was going to reference Mario Galaxy.
I don't think Galaxy was open world, was it? I think it was level based. Is that why Galaxy's not in there?
It had the same feel to it as Mario
hub.
64. You had a hub, and then you would go to different planets, and then there was within those galaxies, you had 5 different planets that you can do your missions on.
Yeah.
That's how Mario 64 was, right? You go into the castle and you go into the paintings.
Similar.
It's like level based though. If you remember back to Mario 64 and Mario Sunshine, you would go into a stage area, but there would be goals all over it. Like you would jump in the picture photo frame or jump in the splash of water or whatever. You would find whatever boss or whatever it is that you need to conquer, you'd get a star, but then you'd go back to the same exact spot and you would do the same thing, do a different thing in that same exact environment. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe Galaxy was individual little levels. You went to different planets, but wasn't it like 1-1, 1-2, 1-3? Or am I confusing that one with a different one?
I don't think it was set up like that. You were given.
You could do multiple goals in one level.
Because I remember at one point you have the option. You have to get 60 more stars, which was ridiculous. But you have to get a bunch of more stars, so you just go throughout all these different planets. And I think it's very similar to the setup of Sunshine and 64. I just never understood why everyone's saying that it's not part of this series of Mario games. I don't know.
Right.
I never understood it. But before we close up our discussion about October 27th, I just want to talk about Wolfenstein a little bit because I'm excited about Wolfenstein. Matt's excited about Wolfenstein. Dave, I think you should be excited about Wolfenstein. And another thing, I think here's why, Dave. Here's why you should be excited for Wolfenstein. I don't know if you know this, but Wolfenstein 2 is being released on Switch. Are you aware of this?
I'm aware of that. Yeah. Wolfenstein, I appreciate that they're going for that alternate reality thing, but I don't know. Maybe I might check it out at some point. My backlog kind of hurts, and there's so many more games I'd rather play coming out. But
you don't have to worry about it anytime soon because it's not coming out for Switch until 2018, I think, for some reason.
Oh yeah.
So it's not coming out on the initial release date. But Wolfenstein, I'm excited. It seems like it's just kind of it's leading off from the last one. And it's kind of like a revolution. You're still trying to get back at the Nazis. They haven't really sold a whole lot. It seems like it's kind of more of the same feel as Wolfenstein 1 New Order, where you have the different weapons and it's got the same kind of look to it. But it should be
ultra violence.
Yeah, it should be really good. Matt, is there anything that you wanted to add about Wolfenstein?
I think it's great that Switch is picking it up. I know they're picking it up later, which kind of hurts it, but I think that's awesome that they're still showing support to Switch on that. And the other comment I had was, are these games coming out on Friday because of Halloween? Or because usually games are Tuesday drops. I know Nintendo likes to do Fridays, but
yeah, that's what surprised me about. I know Nintendo's always a Friday drop, but I thought Wolfenstein, games like that and Assassin's Creed would be a Tuesday, but some games do Fridays, I guess.
Yeah.
Fridays usually.
They all wanted to compete.
Yeah, I guess Fridays just happen to line up perfectly for these studios. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited about Friday. I want to see how Mario Odyssey does with everybody. Are either of you getting Mario Odyssey at launch?
I'm not.
Dave?
I traditionally don't buy single player games at launch because there's no reason to. I usually wait for those to go on sale. But I don't know. I mean, I bought Zelda. I'm a Mario. I'm a kind of a Nintendo fanboy, even though it's whatever. But I bought Zelda full price. I'll probably likely buy Odyssey full price. But typically, if it's anything but Nintendo, I can wait on it. Like Witcher 3, I waited on that one, and it's still amazing. Metal Gear, waited on that one. It was still amazing when I played it. You don't need to go out and do it just because it's Nintendo and I want Nintendo to stick around and get sales.
I will put a guarantee that Dave will have Mario Odyssey by episode 26 next week.
There's a good chance I will.
I can promise you, listeners, Dave will
Maybe not Friday, but
Dave will
not the worst
good.
bet you can make.
Dave will give us a preview of Mario Odyssey next week on episode 26. You have my LAN partner guarantee.
There it is, right there.
All right, let's wrap this thing up. I got a quick news story. Just want to get your opinions on this real fast. Switch has now sold over 5 million units. How do you guys feel about that? Excitement?
It's a lot of units.
I'm extremely excited.
That's
I
already
don't want
what,
Nintendo to die ever.
It's like a fifth of like Wii U's lifetime sales right there already.
I think it's half.
Yeah, it's
No, it's
like
fast.
almost
Wii
like
U
a
was only
third.
13 mil tops.
Yeah.
It's like a third.
They're already destroying Wii U.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
In
No.
year one, this console is crushing. I thought I read a statistic not too long ago that based on like availability of units, like the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One slowed down faster than the Switch has. Based on, I gotta go cite the source, but it was like they were talking about like, holy cow, like this thing is not only outselling those consoles currently just because it's brand new still, but it like is outpacing like any other console. Period.
Keep in mind, Switch hasn't even had a holiday season yet.
Yeah.
No,
I
it
know.
has not.
It hasn't even
They're-
had a holiday season, and it's already sold 5 mil. And
Say goodbye to all those Switches you see on store shelves right now. You
Yeah.
better get one before Black Friday because after that it's done. You won't see another one until February.
They kept their promise, having a steady flow of games, like just kind of evenly apart.
they're impressing me. The Switches,
Yeah.
their indie lineup is insane. They have so many indie developers just coming at them, and I'm pretty hopeful. Like now that Wolfenstein is coming to the Switch, like I'm probably gonna wait for Wolfenstein till I get a Switch. Just because it's there, why not? I have so many other games to be playing on PS4 right now that I don't
Yeah.
need Wolfenstein on my PS4. I can wait for the Switch to play that on, and it's going to be awesome. The Switch is great. I gotta get one. I can't wait.
Can you believe the stock of Nintendo dropped when they announced the Nintendo Switch? It
Yeah.
literally dropped. I remember reading that on several different publications that literally Nintendo stock dropped when they announced the Nintendo Switch the night that I pre-ordered it.
Yeah, I think it kind of had like if
Their
you-
opening little
Yeah.
conference was not good.
If
I'll
you-
give them that.
if you watch like the New York Jets draft picks videos and they're like New York Jets with the first pick, fullback, and then everyone's like no, like that. I think that's how the Switch initially was. Like, what are they gonna announce? And then they're like handheld device, and everyone's like no, like why? Why a
1-2
handheld?
switch.
Yeah.
No.
It just seemed like oh
cow
my
milking.
god, are you kidding me? And then they open up with a cow milking video, and it's like
Yeah.
why? Like, and then there's ice cube shaking. Like
Here we go again.
it did
Yeah.
not
Come
have a
on,
good
the ice
sell.
cubes, man. Hey, the ice cubes got me. I was like, no way. Dude, you're lying if you did not want to feel the different ice cubes in that class. I'm going to call you a straight up liar if you saw him shaking the ice cubes and you're like, I want to know what that feels like.
It was awesome. You're right. Okay. Let's go ahead and close down episode 25 with our list of top horror games with a theme of Halloween coming next week, approaching up closely. So top horror games. Matt, take us away with your number 3.
My number 3 is Silent Hill 2. Running through the streets in the fog, probably one of the scariest moments of like my childhood, because you can't see anything, and then like a dog will pop out around the corner and just chase you, and then all you can do is just run.
Then you got home and played Silent Hill, and it was scary too.
Right.
That sounds terrible.
It's scary. It's scary.
I'll go next. The thing about me is I do not play horror games. I steer clear of even horror movies. I hate the horror genre. I hate Halloween when it comes around because every TV channel throws horror movies all night and I can't watch TV. I'm not very tough when it comes to horror movies. I'm not that kind of guy. So my list, I'm stretching for some of them. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to call my number 3 BioShock 1. If you don't think that's a horror game, then complain all you want with my list, but that's a horror game. It's
I
under
can
the
see it.
horror
I can
genre. It's got some creepy parts. It's got a real creepy feel to it. So BioShock 1 is my number 3. Dave, what about you?
Connor's number one is going to be like Altered Beast or something. Anyway, my number 3.
Did I show you my list?
I don't. You might have.
Sneak a peek.
I might have peeked at it. I might have given it a peek. Fear is my number 1. It's a game that mixed horror and first-person shooter, and it blew my mind, especially because The Ring was a really popular movie years prior to that, and I played that one, and I felt like the Ring chick was in the movie or in the video game too. And there were a couple scenes that I remember just being like, I actually feel a little scared. What I'm doing right now actually kind of scares me a little. I don't know if it's because it's the first person thing or what, but it was awesome.
Thank you. Yeah.
Matt, your number 2 game.
My number 2 is a game I talked about last week, Resident Evil 4. That game just kind of gives me the heebie-jeebies. I don't really know what else to say about it.
And to put it a little bit more in perspective, when you guys hear my list, you'll probably think like, man, this guy's a little girl. Paranormal Activity, that movie scarred me for a solid month, if not longer.
I can attest to that.
I am terrified of scary movies, so I steer clear. But my number 2 is Until Dawn. I'm proud of myself that I actually even played this game, because going into it, I knew it was scary. And Matt finished it before me, so I'd ask him like, is there a scary part coming up? And he said, yeah. And I'm like, okay. And then I get myself ready.
He closed his eyes.
But,
Connor, your number 1 is going to be like Luigi's Mansion, isn't it?
Oh, that's good. That should have been. There's some jump scares in that one.
Honorable mention for Connor.
So my number 2 is Until Dawn. Dave, what is your number 2?
My number 2 is similar to Matt's number 2. I chose Resident Evil 1 though, because I still, to this day, like probably saw a couple things in that game too young, and it was awesome. Like the slow moving zombies we talked about last week are just, you got 4 bullets, this thing's coming at you. It was a game where you couldn't aim for the head, you just had to kind of pop bullets into it. You had like the knife. I don't know, it was just the scariest like impending doom. Resident Evil 1.
You guys, you're scaring me. All right, Matt, what is your number 1 game?
My number 1 is the one that maybe it's kind of a lesser known game, near and dear to my heart and to our friend Tony's heart, is Condemned: Criminal Origins.
Orange box.
This
right?
game scared
Was
the
that
crap
an orange
out
box,
of me.
Matt?
No.
That wasn't in the orange box? I thought it was.
No, it was not.
I thought it was Half-Life and Condemned.
No,
Half-Life Condemned.
No. It's just called Condemned: Criminal Origins.
No, Half-Life and Condemned. I thought the orange box came with Half-Life and Condemned.
No, it's Team.
No.
Team,
all right.
Fortress.
Team
Sorry,
Fortress,
continue.
But this game is super scary because it's like first person, and you don't really use guns. You have to use like objects around you. So you'd have to pick up a plank of wood or a crowbar, and a guy, like a crazy like psycho dude, would be like chasing you in like an empty parking garage, and you'd have to just like try to beat him with a stick. It was just like super creepy.
All right, my number 1 is Watch Dogs. It's scary how bad that game is. No, I'm kidding. It's not Watch Dogs. My number 1 though is The Last of Us. That is my number 1 horror game.
It's not bad. It's a good list.
It's not a horror game. It's barely a horror game. But yeah, Last of Us is my number 1. There's a lot of scary parts, and if BioShock's my number 3, then Last of Us has to be my number 1 because it's got some definitely scary themes and scary parts to it. So Dave, what is your number 1?
All right, let me ask you guys a question before I answer my number 1 here. When you think of a horror game, what is the feeling that you feel the most?
Probably like nervous or tense.
Nervous, tense. Connor, what would you say?
Pure fear.
Pure fear. Unbridled terror. My number 1 is LA Noire, because after 6 hours of playing that game, it was so horrifically bad that I wanted to shrivel up in a corner and rock back and forth for hours, thinking to myself, what could I have done with those 6 hours of my life? It is the ugliest, uncanny valley, garbage, trash I've ever played in my life. You know, LA Noire is my number 1. If you want to play a game that will make you just never want to play games again, LA Noire is definitely your game. If you don't want fun, if you want to play This Is the Police but take away all the fun, play LA Noire.
Well, I can't believe GTA was in numbers 3 and 2 then leading up to LA Noire just to warm it up.
There's no competition. There's no competition. I can stomach GTA in those games.
Not LA Noire.
I had a honorable mention for me was a Dead Space.
Oh yeah, I'm surprised Dead Space didn't make it onto your list.
I really wanted to play. I got 2 games that I just did not get a chance to play before we did this cast, but Outlast and Layers of Fear I got from Xbox games, but I'm sure one of those would have made my list. So if any listeners played those games, give me a recommendation.
All right, so that was episode 25. We got one more Halloween-themed episodes coming at you next week. So please tell your friends about us. Take us when you're going to work, when you're at work, doing the laundry, cleaning the house, whatever. Listen to us weekly. Thank you so much for listening. Sorry about the quality of sound. I heard a couple glitches here and there. Dave's voice kind of went in and out a few times here or there, but sorry about that. Skype isn't always the most friendly of services. But see you next week. Thank you so much for listening.